Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Capita's third webinar series focusing on local government contact centre delivery. My name's Tracy Osman. I'm Director of Customer Services for Capita's Local Government Services business. And I'm very pleased to spend some time with you this afternoon and focus on how we can work together to ensure that contact centres and contact channels change their approach to meet today's ever-changing needs. During today's session, we're going to discuss the challenges facing local authority contact centres, both those that exist already and those that are in the making. Look at why councils should be considering such change, understanding what long-term saving benefits are available to be made through the change in your access strategy, and looking at how we can reduce avoidable contacts whilst maintaining customer satisfaction levels. And inevitable in all of that is looking at the benefits of using online services, and in particular customer portals, to improve the performance of our channels and the cost effectiveness of delivery. Okay. So let's spend a few moments looking at the challenges for local government today. All of you watching this broadcast today will be very aware of the constant challenge to reduce cost. There are significant budget challenges that go on. Most of the low-hanging fruit that all of us found easy to find in the early days is now disappearing, if not already being used. And yet the pressure continues to reduce the cost, to generate long-term efficiencies, and still maintain high levels of customer satisfaction. Affordability of the technologies that can help in that cost effectiveness of channel delivery also is a challenge for local government, particularly smaller local authorities who find it quite challenging to meet the one-off investment costs and provide a business case for investment that will show a return on that investment in enough time to provide the savings required. We have to look at the challenge of striking the balance between delivering more for less. As we said, we know we need to reduce the cost to serve, but equally customer expectations are ever increasing. Our private sector colleagues and the banking industries and the shopping industries are setting expectations that local government needs to try to match, and that does put added pressure on maintaining customer satisfaction. That said, technological advances are making it easier for us to offer that wider offering across our access channels. However, again, as we discussed, there is a cost to pay for those, and we need to look at ways in which we can do that. Customer preferences and their behaviours around online service are changing. We touched on how they need to they compare our services to those of the private sector channels that they already use. And so local authorities need to hit the mark and start to improve the quality of their self-service options. And finally, we need to not forget those vulnerable customers who exist in our communities today, who may not be ready or able to use self-service options. So how do we make sure that they don't get lost in the drive towards self-service? So in summary, why should contact centres be considering the change in the way they deliver services, or in fact across all the contact channels? In the main, we've got to look at customer expectations and behaviours, the fact that customers look to access our services 24/7, they expect to get the Amazon experience when they log into their local authority website, and they expect that in having ordered or requested a service online, that service actually gets resolved and it doesn't just find its way into someone's inbox for someone to then give them a call about it. We do have advances in technology and software. This is great, but there are challenges around the affordability, which we can touch on. But nevertheless, because those opportunities are available to them, we have to look at ways in which we can exploit them in a way that will return on the investment we make. We've got to look at reducing the cost of customer interaction, and most of you will be familiar with Soccertim's cost of transactions, ranging anywhere from £10 for a face-to-face transaction down to 15 to 20 pence for a web transaction. Frustratingly, the web transaction price, as cheap as it is, does take some investment to get there, and you need scalability to actually get down to that level of cost. But nevertheless, there is potential there by driving people to the cheaper channels to actually reduce the cost to serve. And finally, in contact centres themselves, those of you who have already got contact centres in place will be experiencing the benefits of having reduced the cost of telephony contacts by bringing people together, by providing the right performance management capability and workforce management technology, and the multi-skilling and the use of scripting, which will be ensuring you are achieving savings through your contact centre. For those of you who are thinking about that, then there are many proven models. Here at Capita, we've got plenty of experience of having implemented contact centres and realised significant savings for local authorities in doing so. So how do we put these wise words and challenges, how do we address them and put them into practice? So what we've tried to adopt here at Capita and with our clients is the concept of pragmatism. So it really is about maximising what you've already got in place, looking at your IT estate, looking at your contact channels, and making sure that you're making the most of them. And that's where we would always start with our client authorities, by taking a long, hard look at what they've got and seeing how we can maximise the benefits of those. So the first challenge is to look at the current channels and take a long, hard look at the processes through business process re-engineering or business process analysis, whichever term you prefer, but looking to reduce waste in any process steps and actually increase the resolution and ensure that your one-stop shop is as cost-effective as possible. We all know through the socketing figures and our own budgets that one-stop shop in-person transactions are longer and inevitably therefore more expensive. Take a look at what you've got in terms of the online contact channels that you may already have available to you through the use of other systems that you're using in your back offices. Often they have web services that can easily be turned into online contact opportunities. And looking at payment methods, probably those of you with experience in council tax will have worked very hard to get as many of your people onto direct debit. But there are other opportunities outside of the revenues world where you're looking at income payments, so payments for pest control, payments where you want to actually have the cash in your hand to avoid the need to invoice and then take expensive recovery action. In terms of having a healthy awareness of the cost of the investment in technology, it's really worthwhile targeting and looking at your high volume activity, taking a look at at both the volume of the transaction, but also the capability of turning that transaction into a self-service option. So, for example, you might look at parking permits. Many of you may already have gone down that line, but actually parking permits online is relatively straightforward, and it does allow you to reduce the cost of helping people to do something that's really quite straightforward. However, when you start to look at adult social care, you may feel that the scope to turn that service to online is more limited, and also the volume of transactions may be more limited. In terms of the contact centres we already have in place or that we're contemplating, the advancements there are significant. We have, within the IVR world, moved beyond the basic menu now to using IVR for its true purpose, which is voice recognition. And many of our clients have introduced the concept of an automated switchboard, so the customer says the name of the person they want to speak to, and that will route them through. IVR technology can be used also to take people through to automated payment options, and it can also be used to broadcast messages, so that if, for example, on a parking appeal where everybody has to write in regardless of how annoyed or unhappy they are, you can use the IVR broadcast message to explain that, and depending on the council's approach, actually terminate the call. That leads nicely into the mandating options. So actually using your advisors to manage the behaviour of the customer in future, to help them understand the benefits of the self-service options once they're available, and redirecting customers to help themselves to use self-service. So your advisors are a really rich source of support in channel shift, and we certainly use our advisors and measure the quality of their success in converting customers to self-serve. And finally, we've got to look at how we help customers to change their behaviours. I talked earlier about the fact that there are many of our customers, and we mustn't neglect that, many of our customers who are already expecting to use self-service and are disappointed when they can't. And we also need to encourage those who might be interested in doing it to do so. And the key to that is making sure that you make the processes work when they go online, and also make sure that the website is robust, because we all know what it's like when we've used a bad website, we're unlikely to try it again. So pick the right processes to make transactable online, and then make sure that the customers who are likely to use that are made aware that it's available. And there's all sorts of things you can do now through customer insight, which will enable you to be able to be more targeted in your campaigns for channel shift. And also make sure, as part of your access strategy, that you do focus on the vulnerable customers and use that same insight to help you make sure those customers are aware of the services that are available to them. So in summary, it is about making sure you're making the most of what you've already got and those things that are more affordable to implement. So in terms of reducing avoidable contact, just to pause for a moment on what we mean by avoidable contact. So in our language, avoidable contact is a contact that need never have come through. And that might be because they could have helped themselves to service. It could be because we are resolving at the first point of contact, so they never need to ring back to see how something's going because they've already had the result. So what we're saying here, and we've talked about the concept of using what you've already got, looking at your legacy systems and maximising the use of self-service portals. So in one of the local authorities on whose behalf we deliver services in the north, we have helped them to maximise the take-up of their IEG4, their benefits, housing benefits applications online. And in this particular council, we now have 96% of new applications online. I think that's an incredibly powerful statistic, because what you're talking about there is a category of customer that people may have previously described as vulnerable. So you've got people applying for housing benefits online. And to a certain extent, we've achieved that success through mandating that online functionality by telling customers the only way to apply for this housing benefit is to apply online. And then you have to utilise the forces that we described previously around the advisor, the power of the advisor in explaining to customers that they can't send them a paper form, that they actually have to go and complete online, but help them to use that online channel. And similarly in the face-to-face service, ensuring that customers who turn up are triaged to make sure that we haven't got a vulnerable customer situation, but where there's an assessment that a customer can help themselves, take them to the self-service kiosk and actually help them to fill it in online. And then for all other customers, to avoid the drop-in option and ensure that they need to make an appointment, so you can at the same time manage your queue and make sure they bring the right information with them. And we do believe that in doing those things, we have actually increased customer satisfaction, because customers can help themselves. Yes, it's a journey and it's a bit daunting, but once they've completed that process, they are seeing quicker assessment timetables, a quicker turnaround of their application, and therefore the satisfaction is increased. So it is about looking at what you've got in your kit bag, in your IT estate, in terms of your self-service options. How is your website? What transactions have you got on there? Looking at whether you're using e-forms as opposed to PDFs or Word documents, which always need inputting. Looking at maximising your IVR opportunities, and looking at some of the opportunities afforded by SMS messaging, insofar as it can be used as an outbound contact to remind people that they owe money or that they need to bring some information in. We've talked a lot about the concept of what you've already got. So you may have a multitude of back office systems where web services or a self-service option is available to you, either within the cost or at little extra cost. And what there are now on the market, and Capita has one of them, is a product that allows, it's called Federated Access. And what it means is you allow the customer to log on once through a single log on, and that will then authenticate them, verify them, and allow them seamlessly to access the web services of the back office different legacy systems that we referred to. This can significantly increase your chances of getting people to use self-service, because one of the problems is if each system has its own username and own password, customers get fed up, can't remember them, and then think, you know what, I'm just going to pick the phone up, or I'll just pop down to the office and they can help me. So the concept of having a customer portal, a single log on, and also that would then increase your richness of insight into that customer's use of the web, and equally provide the customer with a personalised view of the kind of transactions along the Amazon lines where you can make it more relevant and pertinent to them. So there are many opportunities we've discussed, but what are the barriers to achieving those savings and that significant change in customer experience? One of the main issues is affordability. We've talked about that at length. I'm not going to expand on that anymore, but it is really all about being pragmatic, looking at what you've got, focusing on high volume. We all face barriers of internal culture change, but we at Capita, certainly having implemented a number now of fairly large-scale customer service transformation programs, have tried and tested models that support the stakeholder engagement that's necessary, which also supports the engagement of members so that they are alongside and supporting the programme. How do you reduce the risk for local authorities? Again, many authorities may have produced a business case and implemented a product, but then not necessarily found that they could realise the benefits. So again, we have plenty of experience at Capita of doing robust business cases, supported by the concept of benefits cards, which means people sign up to deliver those benefits. And we bring with us the importance of baselining and then tracking the achievement of the saving. Delivering the culture change for customers, that really is all about the importance of insight and the importance of choosing the right processes, making it work, making it reliable, and most importantly, making sure the service gets delivered as they requested it. We've probably, most of us, had the Amazon experience. You order something online, you get an email saying thank you for your order, it's been dispatched. The process is really straightforward and the customer's informed every step of the way about where that product is. That would be incredibly costly to do with people, and therefore using the technology to keep that progress update and increase the customer satisfaction is essential. But there are, as we've said, vulnerable customers, and we can't lose sight of those. And I think the important thing is the internal communication with your stakeholders, the officers who represent customers, the elected members who represent customers, and making sure they understand that this access strategy, this approach to maximising self-serve, actually increases the support available for vulnerable customers. And finally, one of the challenges that that local authorities face is capacity within their organisation. And at Capita here, we've described it as an affordable model for supporting local authorities. So we will work with you to identify where the savings potential is, what the business case is for change, and we can work with you on a suitable commercial arrangement that would mean that you could actually have that work done and then recover the cost of that work through the implementation of the programme during the transformation. So, in summary, what are the benefits in changing the way we deliver services and deal with the cost of interaction for our customers? We will have to increase the ability to get customers to self-serve. There's no other way now to save this money. We've got to reduce the volume of mediated access to actually reduce the call volumes and the face-to-face contacts, so that customers are enabled to self-serve and actually get their queries answered. That will give you realisable cashable savings, and it's through the reduction in advisor and face-to-face officer support, which you ought to be able to predict, forecast and then manage through to realisable benefits. In doing so, we also need to take care that we increase and improve the automation between the front and back office, because there's no mileage in improving the initial interaction with the customer if it then still needs manual intervention. So what you need to be looking for with your web services is making sure that they do integrate through to the back office and that the end transaction is resolved. And finally, making sure that you do make it clear in your strategy, and especially when communicating with elected members and customers, that actually you're not stopping contact for vulnerable citizens, but what you are doing is preserving the expensive resource to look after those vulnerable citizens and ensure that those who can and are willing to serve themselves will do so. So that brings us to the end of the formal part of the webcast, and what I'm hoping is that during the broadcast you've actually sent me through some questions, and I'm pleased to say I do have some questions here to answer. So the first question I have in front of me is, what happens to vulnerable citizens, for example the elderly, when services move online? So I think we've touched on this quite a bit during the presentation. So the first thing to say is that you're not ruling out support for those vulnerable citizens. You're talking about using targeted insight to make sure that you exploit the self-service channels with those willing to help themselves. But I think the other important thing here to be wary of is typecasting the elderly as people who may not want to use services online. Mobility can be quite a challenge for our elderly customers, and in particular I'd probably invoke the example of my own mum, who's recently acquired an iPad and is very delighted to be able to access shopping online, and equally I think she'd be very willing to use online channels to contact her local authority. So the elderly needn't be ruled out as an opportunity for self-service, but equally we do need to be realistic about the support they may need in using technology. A second question here is, this council already has software for online claims and an IVR in place, but what they're saying here is that the results have been limited. The success in driving people to use online claims hasn't been as successful. So I think I referred in the presentation to the example we have in one of our client authorities where we have achieved significant transaction. But I think we've got to be brutal here and say that the reason we've been able to drive that saving through and that shift to the self-service through is because we have made it more difficult for customers to bypass the online option. So they are advised when they contact the centre that they must fill a form in online, and only those who are described or assessed as vulnerable are offered an appointment to come in and be helped in filling in the form online. Even then, an assessor who through the appointment will fill the form in online. And what we do is when customers drop into our one-stop shop there, they are taken nicely and helpfully to a self-serve kiosk and shown how to actually fill that form in online, and as you can see the results are significant, but it hasn't been without a significant amount of mandating that channel shift. And I've got a question here: how is political acceptance overcome? So yes, we do have the challenge of our elected members who will oftentimes want the best service but also have a budget to balance, and I think this is where it's absolutely critical to use the customer insight that you have to ensure that they can be assured that you've looked at the communities for your particular authority, you understand where the pockets of vulnerable citizens are likely to live, and that you're targeting your self-service promotion to those most able to use it. And then that would free up the time, as we've said previously, to devote the expensive resource to those who need the most help. So I think that's all we've got time for. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, and I look forward to speaking with you again. Thank you.